Good evening, comrades. Happy Socialist Sunday. Welcome to the stream, the Sunday live stream on my left eye. I'm your host, Lefty. Are we all well this eve? The chat's a bit quiet at the moment. Who's going to be first? It's a rarity that we come on the stream without the chat kicking off. Whether you're in chat or not, please hit thumbs up on the stream. Help to spread the solidarity this Socialist Sunday. Much appreciated. Yeah, going over the rest of the week's events. I've got a double billing from the Laura Kussenberg show. David Lammy and Yusuf. We'll see how they got on. See if Kussenberg's got any better at doing politics. Don't get your hopes up. That is for the quality of Kussenberg. You can always rely on the quality here at my left eye.
Socialists.
Yeah, we're also going to be, of course, taking a look at the latest hot seat, Makerfield. A few more updates in that important by-election, which is less than 3 weeks away now. Within a month. Graham Turner was first in the chat. Good evening. Solidarity. Viva Palestina. Had to be someone. I'm glad it was you. Nice to see you. I'll go through the full shebang, of course, when we get into Keith's Fondue Lounge in just a moment. Thank you very much to Herbie and the Rangers, the background jazz group. Let's hear that again, please, fellas. Here with us every Sunday, that's Herbie Ranger and the Supersonics. This is the latest members roster. Jamie Ellis, nice to see you in chat. And your name too will be appearing on this list of marvellous members. A few plugs and promotions to do as we watch the list as well. This one's very important at the moment. Not sure what's happening, but we're sort of lagging behind where non-stream content's concerned. That's normal, regular videos. If you could open some of our recent contents on a mobile device and hit the thumbs up button, it should prompt you to donate some hype points. This is totally free. It's just a way of helping out smaller channels like ourselves on the old algorithm, so please do consider that. Just a reminder, you have to be watching on a mobile device, a phone or a tablet, something like that. So please do that, as well as hitting other supportive buttons. You can join this list of excellent people you can see on your screen for just 99 pence. Hit join to find out more about the perks. Super chat's open on this stream if you're watching live, as well as super stickers, and there's the super thanks as well as buy me a coffee page if you're watching back later on. But whoever you choose to support the channel, thanks again. We do appreciate it wherever it comes from. There's a Doc in the house. Nice to see you, Doc. You'll get into the lounge in a moment.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Ready for the first portion of Fondue? I think we are. Let's head straight over. Keith's Fondue Lounge.
It's a quality item, ladies and gentlemen.
It will be. As long as time that well. I've just got a bit of buffer in here. One moment, people.
It's a quality item, ladies and gentlemen.
So, coming up, a bit of a look at Laura Kussenberg, not the full shebang, not the full show, just the Lammy+Yusuf interviews. The panel didn't look too great either. I'll be talking a bit more about that. As we go through those interviews, as I said, we'll also be catching up on the latest in Makerfield, the current hot seat on the channel. Some updates to bring you there, as well as another episode of Placard Power. Of course, the fallout surrounding the surrounding the Henry Novak case continues. There are a couple of laughable examples at sort of, I don't know, response to this tragic incident, which is still all over the news here in the UK. A bit of other UK news as well. And a few bits and pieces where Palestine is concerned as well, of course. Plus more, we've got a couple of comedy clips to sort of bookend the stream. We'll start with that in just a moment. JK just joining us after what sounds like a particularly vigorous workout. Well, wind down and chill out with the Sunday live stream. Here on my left eye, nice to see you, JK. Yes, still not a great week for Keith, of course, the host of this fondue party. And of course, Scandalson himself has been in the news yet again of late. It seems as though the authorities have quite a lot of material to get through with their investigation of Mandelson. We'll have to see what happens where that's concerned. At least Hodge has been pretty quiet lately, I guess. Can't say I've heard much from her. Right, we'll be leaving in a few moments for that first comedy clip. Just another reminder. Please make sure that you've hit thumbs up on the stream if you're just joining us. Keith would hate that. So do it. Alright, we'll see you soon, Keith. And let's get into the first comedy clip. This one, it's a short one, but great stuff as always from Michael Spicer. This is his interpretation of Nigel Farage listening to the news on the radio.
It's 6 o'clock. This is the news. A postal worker from Essex has been shot today outside his home. 32-year-old Yusuf al-Zadibi was shot 5 times at close range and is in a critical condition in hospital. A suspect has been arrested. In a separate incident, an estate agent has been attacked by 2 youths as he was leaving Ealing Broadway station today. 45-year-old Samir Begum was set upon by 2 men in their teens who were arrested a few hours later. He is in a stable condition. A man in Gravesend was knocked off his bicycle last night after an altercation with a local drugs gang. 26-year-old Zach Karia Abdullahi was badly beaten by the gang when he tried to stop a friend from buying drugs. In Barnet, a pensioner was robbed at knife point today whilst walking his dog. 68-year-old David Alexander Shafiq Malik.
Oh, come on!
But unhurt. A man is being questioned. And finally, police have today arrested a man in connection with a violent assault on a university professor, which took place last month in Northolt. 55-year-old Catherine Forrester was attacked as she walked to her car after a night out with friends.
She should have been more careful.
And that's the news.
Michael Spicer. Link in the description for his channel. Do go and subscribe. There's also a link to that video as well. Want to check it out again. It's probably pretty close to the truth, though, has to be said. Very selective, aren't they, in which violent cases and such they choose to speak out for. But of course that's going to be the main chunk of the questioning from Laura Kussenberg, Laura I should say, being put towards David Lammy and Yusuf. Let's get into that straight away. This is a first time watch for myself. Yeah, like I said earlier, we're not going to check out the full show, but do check out Kevin Logan and No Justice as well. In fact, there's a good chance that we might be raiding into them later on. They do a more thorough analysis of the full Laura Kussenberg show, including the panel, which I believe consisted of Jacob Rees-Mogg, if you want to know his 2 cents on this Henry Novak case, the wider policing situation, which I'm sure is going to come up, whatever. And I believe Kay Burley was also on there, so you've got one hack in the form of Laura Kussenberg taking the opinions of someone from Sky News, Kay Burley, of course. Unbelievable. So Claire Coutinho was also one of the other guests. She is, of course, right-wing. You've got David Lammy, who is, of course, right-wing, centre-right, whatever you want to describe him as. Certainly not left-wing, which the BBC would probably see him as. Certainly if you complained about any left-wing representation, that, oh well, we had David Lammy on and he's from the Labour Party, so that must count as someone from the left. And also, of course, Yusuf, far right, unelected, in case we need reminding, but has found himself in a high position within reformplc.co.uk/recycled Tories. So it will be David Lammy up first. Current current Foreign Secretary, sort of Deputy Leader. I don't think the BBC can make their mind up who's Deputy Leader of the Labour Party at the moment. That's another topic, won't get into that one. So no spoilers in chat. If you've already seen this, it's a first time watch from me. Let's kick on. There she is, doing politics.
We are not going to show the body cam footage of Henry Novak again this morning as he lay dying. The country's seen his pleas to the police for help, and they've heard the angry political debate this week. Henry's killer had called the police, lying that he'd been racially abused. But it was Henry who was handcuffed and arrested, even though he'd been stabbed. There has been a huge row already about what's claimed to be two-tier policing, where the authorities
Mr. Jarrett,
are suggested to go easier on ethnic minorities
thanks for joining
in
us,
fear
comrade.
of being accused of racism.
An 18-year-old with everything to hope for. But sorrow over Henry's death turned to anger on the streets where it happened. To other politicians' horror,
And we know why that
morning
was.
Nigel Farage had called for a
Farage,
response
yeah.
of pure cold rage.
And Yaxley
But
Lennon, of
how
course, who was
had
down
the
there.
police response gone so wrong?
We don't need rage, we need courage. They're not institutionally racist anymore. If anything, they have overcorrected. I want to see people treated equally, doesn't matter what skin colour they are.
We now
Overcorrected.
come to Prime Minister's questions.
As a dad of a 17-year-old boy, I felt sick.
The victims of knife crime and their families deserve a politics where we come together to solve these problems and not use them as a political football.
Politics, policing and race. The core of an angry conversation.
End this divisive practice of two-tier policing and make sure that all British citizens are treated the same.
His response has been to appeal for rage. Rage. It shows exactly who he is.
The family's call for calm drowned out in Westminster. What, if anything, needs to change in Henry's name?
Well, David Lammy, this is a really distressing case, and the family have been clear they don't want a huge political fight. But there are some very big principles.
So now, well, before they get into it, just very quickly, I've mentioned before something that has concerned me is that they're going to try and fundamentally change something about the policing system because of this one, unfortunately tragic, outlying case. It is a tragic case. There's no denying that what happened to Henry Novak is completely unjustified. There's no excusing the officer's behaviour, which still shocks me the more I think about it. And of course, unfortunately now, this has given the far right what they think a sort of open goal or a free licence to try and say that there's too much anti-racism, not just within policing but within society. And we know full well that there is a culture of racism, of misogyny as well within the police force, certainly more specifically within the London Metropolitan Forces, something which we've talked about a lot before, but also on a national level as well. And for Nigel Farage, for Kemi Badenoch, whomever it might be now, to try and seize on this opportunity, I think is absolutely abhorrent. As Novak's family themselves said, they don't want this sort of held up and politicised in any manner whatsoever, whether it's Farage's incitements, whether it's Yaxley Lennon's incitement, or whether it's people like Kemi Badenoch or whomever. I'm sure that maybe Lammy+Yusuf, I'm not sure if Lammy's going to bring it up as well, but coming out and saying that there's too much anti-racism in society is ridiculous. Yeah, there's only one, as I've said before, there's only one sort of person who would say that sort of thing, and that is somebody who is pro-racist, or more specifically, a racist. It's the same with the people who are against anti-fascism. So Lammy's up first. Let's see what he's got. More specifically, what Kussenberg's got as well. I certainly hope that she... Don't get your hopes up, of course, but you'd like to think that she'd hold Yusuf and reform to account for what Nigel Farage did. But we'll see.
That it's raised. So I want to ask you about some of them. On principle, should the police take into account the colour of someone's skin when they're approaching a crime scene?
The starting point in our democracy and criminal justice is that we are all equal before the law. Your viewers know that as a result of the murder of Stephen Lawrence, the Macpherson inquiry, it is the case that context sometimes matters for public...
Mr. Pike Bishop, lovely to see you. Hope you're having a good evening. Solidarity. Thank you very much for joining us.
Public services. So, for example, it would not be acceptable in a hospital to only serve pork where you have a Jewish
He's getting away from the question
patient.
Here. What's
so sometimes context does matter.
I'm going to ask where that response came from. We know where it came from. This is David Lammy. We're talking about Israel, lobbied, of course. Judaism is not part of the Henry Novak case. I don't know why he cited that particular example. The question was whether a police officer approaching will consider the colour of somebody's skin before they decide how to act. So I might be slightly paraphrasing there, but he's, as is his custom, not doing much to actually address the question.
But I think it is right in this case that the guidance is reviewed and understood. It is important that any guidance is clear, particularly for young officers, and that we respond understandably to the footage that everybody has seen.
And we'll look carefully at that guidance in just a second. But on principle, you are saying, just clearly, let's focus on policing. The police should take into account the colour of someone's skin.
We are all equal before the law, so that is not the starting point, but it is the case.
Well, you have to approach this pragmatically, and it was reported initially as a racially aggravated offence. So surely via protocol that would come into it, specifically because of that. But is she asking on the sort of wider point of if you reported a burglary, whatever other crime it was, is it considered or is it not considered? Of course it's going to be considered if it's reported as a racially aggravated crime. That's a no-brainer, Laura.
Recognising that in our country it is still the case that on arrest, on prosecution, conviction, I'm afraid in our prisons, ethnic minorities are disproportionately in the criminal justice system, so context can matter, but it cannot eclipse violence or the fact that we need our police to act to mitigate and deal with crimes in our communities, whatever the colour of your skin or background.
And we can remind viewers also that you are the Justice Secretary, of course, as well as the Deputy Prime Minister, which matters in the conversation that we're having this morning. The problem is that Reform and the Conservatives say that one of the issues...
Will you remind the viewers that he's trying to take away people's right to jury as well, whilst you're at it?
...is in an effort to challenge decades of the problem you've just outlined, an approach to minorities that has been too harsh, the statistics suggest, that we've seen proof of what they call two-tier policing. And I want to show everyone the guidance that they've talked about to kind of prove that point that you've already referred to. This is a...
That's a right-wing phrase. It's right-wing rhetoric, syntax, whatever you want, lexicon, whatever word you might... It's what they say, basically. And I really hate it when, especially this sort of thing from the right, gets absorbed into common language. And in the mainstream media, for example, the cost of living crisis is another particularly bad one for me. That is one that, one that I've noticed, one that you hear a lot as well. Obviously, the word woke has been sort of appropriated and gets used by the right wing a lot. And now we're hearing this phrase two-tier policing seeping down into the mainstream media's lexicon. as well, yeah, there is a reason for that. I won't go into the deeper meaning. It's just another one of those, and I don't know. It kind of grinds my gears because they're falling. They're just singing their tune. They're walking into their trap. They're basically using their own type and style of language on their behalf. That is the right and the far right, and it's dangerous because when we're talking about clear definitions and how things are described, this is particularly important. Yeah, of course, there's bias in the police, but this phrase two-tier policing now seems to sort of exclusively imply, that is where the far right are concerned, they imply that it's used to discriminate against white people. But of course, most of the discrimination comes against minorities, against women as well. And also recently, the elderly and disabled in terms of peaceful protesters who are holding silent vigils to support a wrongly prescribed group. That's where the bias is in the police force. So be very careful with your language, Laura. What is it she makes again? What was it? 300 plus grand a year? Incredible.
Police chief's guidance. It says, our commitment to racial equity means producing equality of policing outcomes for people from different ethnic groups. Now, that's a bit of a word salad, but this is the really key phrase. It does not mean treating everyone the same or being colourblind. Now, that sounds like it goes absolutely against the principle that you've said a couple of times this morning already, that we are all equal before the law.
Yeah. I'm really clear. We're all equal before the law.
So is that wrong, then, that guidance?
The complexity is equality does not always necessarily mean the same. And that's why I use the example of someone who's Jewish and what they eat. Or, for example, in the criminal justice, the most overrepresented group...
Muslims don't eat pork either, David.
...in the criminal justice system are Gypsy, Roma, Traveller. Now,
but is that appropriate? This is the question. One of your colleagues, Sarah Jones, the policing minister, says the language in that is wrong. It gives the wrong impression.
You said it's a bit of a word salad. It needs review because in the end, officers have got to know, they've got to understand it. They've got to know what the primary goal is. And in the end, what the public want to see, whatever their colour, in reaction to Henry Novak, is good policing. And the questions are, did we see good policing? But as Kay has said, this is a complex unfolding situation.
That's what started this entire mess.
Those who are charged to investigate properly, investigate it, but understand that context can be different for different groups.
But I'm asking you really about the wider principles that this has raised here. Do you think that we do now have a situation looking at guidance like that, where what your critics call two-tier policing is now sometimes something that happens?
No, I don't recognise two-tier policing across our country. I just don't think that that is the starting point for police officers up and down the country. That is not my experience.
But do you think there are ever cases, even rare cases, where what might come from good intentions has resulted in the wrong approach being taken and ethnic minorities being treated more favourably than white people?
Of course it is the case that police officers reflect the broader public. So just as I'm afraid we've seen terrible examples of racism in the police force recently, Charing Cross, there was some recent problems. Of course it can be the case that there are stereotypes deployed in relation to a white young man or a white young woman. That can be the case. But I think overwhelmingly, the job that our police officers do up and down the country is something we can be proud of. And it's important to hold that up in these moments of public concern as well.
Do you think that the police are institutionally racist?
I actually think we've moved on from that period of institutional racism. It was very real. In the Stephen Lawrence era. That's not my experience when I see... No,
there was a report, a couple of years ago, maybe in 2020, 23, 24. What's the name of the guy who fielded the report? It begins with a C. It'll come to me in a moment. Yeah, but declared that the police are institutionally racist. What's he...
Policing, of course there are problems, but as a result of the work that... But I think overwhelmingly, the job that...
Are institutionally racist.
I actually think we've moved on from that period of institutional racism that was very real in the Stephen Lawrence era. That's not my experience.
The Stephen Lawrence, what was that, early 90s? The Stephen Lawrence case? Don't know why he's bringing that, so that's a sort of watermark, is it? The fact that there hasn't been as prolific a case as Stephen Lawrence means that it can't be as bad. Is that what David Lammy's talking about? That completely ignores the numbers. That completely ignores the statistics as well. And it's dangerously naive of David Lammy, especially when, fascism is on the doorstep with reform and now restore as well in the mix. Of course it is. It's completely ignorant of Lammy to say, it's fine now. Yeah, everything's good.
When I see policing, of course there are problems, but as a result of the work that Louise Casey did a few years ago, I have seen a response from the police.
He's reducing institutional racism and misogyny down to, quote, a few problems. And while I said, obviously, we haven't had cases like Stephen Lawrence so prolifically in the UK where race is concerned. Of course, there was the Sarah Everard case, that poor lady who was murdered horrifically by a serving Met officer in the not too distant past as well. I think that's a bit of a slight and an insult to her family as well, David.
Here in London.
And so the problem is not of the scale that it
It's
used to be. And that
endemic.
phrase, institutionally racist, shouldn't, in your view, then be applied to 2026?
I don't personally recognise that as the appropriate description today, recognising that we saw with gender and women following Sarah Everard, and we saw with Stephen Lawrence, there was work.
I'll give up. All right. I will give him a pass. He did mention that one. I have to be fair, I guess.
To do, but I would say to people, the response to Sarah Everard was the violence against women and girls strategy and actually doing something about rape prosecutions in this country. The response to Stephen Lawrence was actually dealing with it, and we can have a response to Henry Novak.
Actually dealing with it. What was that? The early 90s. So yeah, over 30 years ago, David, and still no proper justice for Stephen Lawrence's family either. That's not dealing, which we dealt with. And I'm sick of all this. The same thing applies to, of course, the Hillsborough case. This turning round 30, 40, 50, sometimes, even longer down the line and say, we've sought, justice has been done now. And meanwhile, many of the original victims have passed on, or there's certainly in the autumn and winter years of their lives. That's not justice. That's certainly not swift justice, if it's any justice at all, David.
A constructive response that takes our policing forward, not a divisive and hateful response.
Do you agree, though, with the former Labour Home Secretary, of course, was steeped in these issues, Jack Straw? He said this week, in his view, there has been an overcorrection on these issues.
Well,
I think that's true.
I think that's why it's important that the National Police Chiefs look carefully at the guidance.
Jack Straw, who's got 2 million Iraqis' blood on his hands? What you think we should take his opinion? We need to, but we can't. We can't have too much equality. We can't have too much anti-racism and anti-misogyny. He was former Defence Secretary, of course, under Blair. I think it was the MP for Blackburn here in the Northwest as well, Jack Straw. why has she decided to pull up a quote from a long-gone Blairite as some sort of reinforcement to this argument, which at the moment might as well have been scripted by Richard Tice himself, from everything I've heard from Kussenberg so far.
And that
they're both awful. You know, it's going to be the same when Yusuf's on. I don't think I'm going to be backing the interviewer or the interviewee. This is why I tend not to watch Kussenberg too much, but I have been a bit recently. Let's carry on anyway.
Actually, the inspectorate are looking at Hampshire Police.
Did you agree?
Oh yeah, but sorry. Why Jack Straw? Why Jack Straw of all people? Come on.
There's been an overcorrection.
I think it is right to look closely at the guidance, because I looking at the word salad as you describe it, clarity, that the young police officers knows what's required of them is essential in this case.
But other politicians are making a broader cultural point almost about this. Now, the guidance that we've discussed was written in the wake of the George Floyd murder and the Black Lives Matter movement. You were one of the politicians in this country who was seen taking the knee.
Yeah, the far right came out and said all lives matter, and said that people taking the knee were absolutely ridiculous. We'll see more about why that was utter tripe later as we get on to placard power.
Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative leader, has written this morning that movement made institutions like the police actually more divided and more racialised, frightened of how they were meant to react. Do you agree with her?
Two things can be true at the same time, and that is that with some of the issues of disproportionality in our criminal justice system that David Cameron asked me to look into just under 10 years ago in the Lammy review, it is important that we root out racism wherever it's found. It is also the case when looking at
Zionism's racism,
context,
Lammy,
that stereotypes are not deployed, stereotypes that can relate to a white young person going about their business. And so, yes, policing is complex in a modern multicultural society, and that is what we need to review, and that is what we need to get right. And we need to get it right for the 21st century, not the last century.
But do you think, though, that the Black Lives Matter movement may have had unintended consequences of meaning that some institutions ended up doing the wrong things and not applying law equally and properly?
Honestly, is this just a really, 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 really long-winded way of saying you can't say anything these days? Basically, is that the only point that they've got? And you like stepping on eggshells with phrases like overstepping, overreaching, and this is like, are we being too anti-racist? Is, you know, imagine a daytime talk show, one of the like old school classic ones, like you Jerry Springers or whatnot, and Oprah Winfrey, and that being the question, the topic as the header. It's almost heading towards that sort of level of debate.
Properly, because they were worried about causing offence. Essentially, there'd been an overreaction.
Air quotes debate.
Well, I think when we look carefully at arrest data, prosecution data, conviction data, and we do see examples of disproportionality, and not just in relation to black communities, Muslim communities, Gypsy Roma traveller communities. And by the way, that is not all about racism. Some of it can be about socioeconomic background and other factors. That I do say there's a level of complexity here, which is why the proper way to deal with this is review, considered, measured, careful review, proper training that's up to date for today, not as it may have been 5, 10, 15 years ago.
I'd be pretty certain that whatever this idiot of an officer did is not within the actual protocol, okay, for responding to such an incident. Far from it. And it's almost certain that he's going to be dismissed, possibly even charged because of this incident, which is way beyond a misdemeanor, of course. And it certainly does. I'm certainly confident in thinking that it doesn't say when you show up to an incident of that description okay, just ignore what the so-called the alleged perpetrator is saying, and yada yada yada. It's just bad policing. It's just, yeah. I don't think it's in the rules. I think it was in the individual themselves, and they're making far too much of a farce about this, as though it's an institutional and widespread problem. I'm not trying to take anything away from the tragedy or the loss of Henry Novak in saying that. Just to remind you, that's just the way I see it.
In terms of one of the specifics of what Henry Novak's family
it's not going to stop this happening again, is my main point.
Are asking for. They don't want a big, divisive argument. They do, though, want the government to look at changing the law when it comes to exemptions for the carrying of ceremonial knives that are carried for religious reasons. Henry was killed with a very large ceremonial knife. Currently, they're exempt from the legislation. Would you look at changing the law?
Look, I think wherever there are exemptions...
This is hot potato. I'd like to get your thoughts on this. Now, I'm not certain where I stand on this. I could certainly see a case for it, because essentially if you're going to ban a weapon, which of course in this case was used as a weapon, it's got to be wholesale. I don't think there can be any societal excuses, be they religious or whatnot, for it to apply to every individual. I could see the case for that. And which is why I'd love to get your thoughts on that, if you lean to it. I say this as an atheist myself, of course. Not every religion have sort of ceremonial weapons, of course. With this particular case, they're referring to Sikhism. But is there a case for that? And I would argue that before and after this case. So do share your thoughts in the chat or in the comments if you're watching back. Let's see how David Lammy responds.
It's a privilege. It's a privilege to be able to carry a dagger as a Scot on your kilt. It's a privilege.
Should large knives be exempt from the legislation?
And it may be. Just as there used to be a privilege, you could walk up number 10, or you could sit in the public gallery at the House of Commons without glass in front of you. The privilege was withdrawn.
So
I would say this, Laura, there are about over 500,000 Sikhs in this country.
Address the question, man.
Overwhelmingly a peaceful, law-abiding community who rejected this killer.
But the question here is, would you look specifically at changing the law? That's what Henry Novak's family want to happen. Will you look at it?
I think in this case, but again, this takes careful review.
Well, look, this is at the family's request. They've already had the one request of it not to be politicised, used as a political football, absolutely sullied. But what are you going to do about this? Because you can obviously see why they'd ask him to look into this, and it's almost like he's trying to tell them to do one, but using 1,000 words instead of 2.
The knife that was used was not a curb hand. It was not ceremonial. It was used in a hateful, terrible way. That is a crime wherever it's being used.
The question here is, should the exemption be removed from the carrying of large ceremonial knives, which people can say are for religious reasons?
And I'm saying...
And you're saying no, it sounds like...
If it's not clear that it was actually a ceremonial knife, and 2, if it's also clear that overwhelmingly British Sikhs who do this responsibly.
He's apparently trying to argue that it wasn't the traditional ceremonial knife in question. I've not heard this come up before, so can't I comment. If you've got any broader ideas on this specifically, do let me know. But that's beside the point. He's still trying to avoid the question.
Let us be measured in our response, but it's right that others think about that.
Okay. One of the things that I think some viewers might find bizarre about this is that the American Vice President, J.D. Vance, who's a friend of yours, I think we can see one of your holiday snaps when you went fishing together when he was over in the UK last year.
I just don't think that you can write laws and say, you know, there's a little asterisk or footnote, whatever, and it is except this or that religion. I don't think, no, wouldn't be about that myself particularly. I don't know. He certainly wasn't for getting into it. I think Henry Novak's family would be pretty disappointed with Lammy's response.
He wrote online.
And now they're getting on to J.D. Vance, who's had a few things to say about this as well.
On Friday, that Henry should still be alive today if the last few generations of European elites had stood their ground against the politics of self-hatred and a mass invasion of migrants. Now, Henry's killer was born in this country. Have you spoken to your friend J.D. Vance about this?
I have spoken to J.D. Vance.
What
I
did you
spoke to
say?
him yesterday, and I told him he was wrong. This has got nothing to do with mass migration. One, let's be clear that obviously since the early 2000s and post-Brexit, migration has come down, but murder has come down too, actually, in our country. And two, the young man who perpetrated this crime was a Brit, born and raised in this country.
So what did you,
nothing to do
what
with
did you
mass
say
migration.
To him? What did you say to him?
I told him he was wrong. Now, we had an agreement.
Did you? Come on. To be a fly in the wall on that one.
Conversation, but we disagreed. We've disagreed before on his perspective on Western civilization. I don't recognise that perspective, and actually Western civilization has always been open to the world, whether it was the Byzantine world, the Levant world, the Silk Road has always influenced Western civilization. So I don't agree with his caricature. He knows that, and we can have that debate and that discussion.
Do you think that he was being provocative deliberately? Do you think he was being racist? Do you think he's
I reminded him that the family have called for calm. They don't want division used on the back of Henry's death. And two, I reminded him also of the online space and how toxic that can become. So, look, we had a robust conversation, a respectful conversation. We remain colleagues and friends. We're able to do that. And he has strong held views.
His colleague, Pete Hegseth, the American, well, he calls himself the Secretary for War, he then, at a solemn D-Day commemoration yesterday, said that Europe was seeing an invasion of migration, and he criticised European leaders for, in his view, tolerating that. Are you?
Yeah, of course. Yesterday was the anniversary of D-Day landings, the old Operation Overlord, Juno, Gold Sword, onto Son Mary Glees and all that.
Comfortable with how much American politicians are commenting on UK politics right now? Downing Street said that people were trying to undermine democracy.
I think that we're in this new online space that can rapidly become toxic, that algorithms are being used and manipulated by state threats and countries that are absolutely opposed to our values.
Should they stay out of it then?
That politicians should be very cautious, very careful. I don't like populism. I've said that before. I'll say it again. But I think we have to accept, in my own view, is that we do have to accept that the concerns around Henry Novak, because it's been viral, has been global. It's not just been unique to our own country.
And you yourself...
of course, J.D. Vance was at pains to say to me, my concerns are as much about the United States as they are about the United Kingdom.
And you yourself, as some people remember, have also said some pretty inflammatory things in the past. However, I want to ask you about another very important issue, defence.
Yeah.
So an independent committee of MPs this morning have absolutely slammed the government's record on sorting out defence spending. They've talked about delay that's damaged relationship with allies. We still don't know when the defence plan is going to be published. Why can't the government get its act together?
Well, let's just start with the allies. Macron, Merz, Zelensky will be here today, this afternoon, with the Prime Minister discussing defence.
That doesn't mean that our defence plan
the
is up to
defence
snuff,
investment plan will be absolutely clear before NATO The work is going in to get this right. And as we speak, 1,400 contracts,
Zelensky's
new
here.
contracts on defence granted since we came to government. 270 billion we are spending on defence by the end by the next election, by the end of this part. Hugely important that that investment is going on in Barrow, in Clyde. I've seen the work on the ships. Barrow, the submarines are being built. That's our commitment to defence.
We don't want the industrial military complex, Lammy. That's why the United States is going to hell in a handcart.
More spending on defence than any year under the Tories, this government.
But the point is that some allies think it's still short. There's still no idea of where or not you're going to get the money from. It's a yes or no question that I want to try and close with. Would you be happy to give up some of your budget at Justice to find cash for defence?
The first purpose of any government is defence of the nation.
So yes?
Defence of the nation. I'm not going to comment on the discussions I have with the Treasury, but defence of the nation. The money will be found. Our commitments to 2.6 and...
Isn't it the will of the people, David?
Then to 3. Absolutely sacrosanct under this government.
OK, we will watch carefully, with interest, when that plan does emerge and see how it's going to be paid for. But David Lammy, thank you for giving us your time on an important morning. We appreciate you coming in. Now then, as we've been discussing already, the reform leader, as we said on Tuesday...
Very bold indeed, ladies and gentlemen.
Pure cold rage. Less than 24 hours before, this was Henry's father, Mark, calling for a full and fearless investigation into...
I've got some buffering here. Just give me a couple of seconds, people. Apologies.
Terrible contrast between how his son and his killer were treated by police. But he urged everyone to be calm and not to use his son's death to divide and cause even more distress.
We do not want his death to be used to create further division, hatred or tension. We want his story to make our streets safer for everyone.
Yusuf from Reform is with us again. Welcome to the studio. Did you listen to what the family had to say?
I did.
And less than 24 hours later, after they had called for calm, Nigel Farage decided to record a special campaigning video suggesting that people respond with pure, cold rage. What was more important to Reform this week, making that political argument that you believe in, or respecting the wishes of the family?
Well, Laura, did you listen to the full statement from Henry's father?
You're here having appreciated your time coming in to ask questions. Obviously, we've just played the statement from Henry's father. He made plain lots of things. Obviously, they're very unhappy with what happened to the police. My question to you, though, is what is more important, the political argument that you're trying to make, which you believe in very deeply, or respecting the family's wishes when they clearly said, do not turn this into a big political argument?
OK, so I'm going to assume you did listen to the whole statement
because you're a prestigious politician.
You played a part of it, a very small segment of it. It went on for about 8 minutes.
But they were very clear where they stood on that particular part, Zia.
You've also, as the BBC, chosen not to air the body cam footage. Again, that is the BBC's right editorially. You're more than within your right to do that. But I want to make a couple of points here.
And I'd point out to people it's been shown many times already. But on a Sunday morning, we've made the decision not to show it again because it's caused a lot of distress.
And that is absolutely your right. I want to make a couple of points for your viewers that have not seen it, perfectly understandably, given how harrowing it is. The last words Henry Novak heard on this planet Earth were his rights being read to him by the police as he was handcuffed, as he bled to death, and his
family know
and
that
his
as well.
family were standing.
His family will have seen the full body cam footage, no doubt. And they still made that request. This body cam footage doesn't magically wash away the requests of his family, which you clearly ignored, which Nigel Farage seized upon in order to potentially try and distract everybody from this £5 million bribe that's been going around a lot lately. And now it's all this. And now he's gone back to hide under a rock after having incited such violence in Southampton.
Over him, the result of an accusation of racism that was taken more seriously by Hampshire police than Henry's repeated statements that he had been stabbed. And another thing that hasn't been in this programme, and again, I'm not criticising you nor the BBC for this, but again, it's really important context for your viewers. When Henry said, I've been stabbed, the response he got from the attending officer, Laura, was, "I don't think you have, mate." And
nobody's debating that. Again, none of this is an excuse for you choosing to ignore the wishes of the family, you conniving snake piece of shit.
If you listen to Henry's father's statement in full, as you did point out in the clip you heard, he talked about the differential way in which his son was treated relative to Dig, where the murderer was, quote, unbearable. He also made a very explicit statement that, in his view, it is unacceptable for anybody to be carrying 21 centimetre blades around in public. And therefore, what Reform has done, what Nigel Farage has done, is said that we need to live in a country, Laura, we need to urgently put on the agenda living in a country where everybody is treated equally. Nobody gets to carry deadly weapons around, and Reform are the only party. The Tories are refusing to commit to this. As you just heard, Labour will not commit to this.
And we've discussed...
Live in a country where nobody gets to carry a deadly weapon around, regardless of what religion you are.
Well, it is now obviously arguable that it wasn't the ceremonial Sikh blade. In fact, it was another illegal blade, as a couple of you have alluded to in the chat. Thank you for the clarity on that one. So no, in fact, it wasn't apparently a Sikh weapon, although it was used by a Sikh. It's kind of convoluted now, isn't it?
And finally, let me just make the last point here. The last point here is what Nigel said was white lives matter just as much as black lives do. And I think I defy you to tell me that the vast majority of your viewers disagree with that statement.
But my question to you is, what was more important to you as a party, making that political argument or respecting the wishes of a grieving family? And I would say we've talked to the family's representatives this weekend, and they have said they would like to reiterate that they did not want this to cause division in the last few days. So what was more important to you as a party, making this political argument, as Nigel Farage did, within 24 hours, recording what he called an emergency address, making a very political point on a very sensitive issue where he said we're living in a two-tier culture in this country where the rights and privileges of white people matter less than those of ethnic minorities. So I'll ask you the same question again. What was more important to you, respecting the family's wishes or making a political argument?
Respecting the family's wishes, which is what we've done, because there's nothing more divisive, Laura, than two-tier policing. And as you've already pointed out on this programme, because I was just watching your interview with David Lammy, you know, the notion that there is structural anti-white prejudice embedded within British policing is not just speculation or something Nigel says or something I say. It is literally on the police's own website, both Hampshire Police and British policing. The race action plan, which, by the way, was brought into being under a Tory government, let me just finish this point, explicitly demands that officers do not treat everybody the same and are not colourblind. And the Hampshire Police's, this is something that's new to this programme because you didn't talk about it before, it's really important. Hampshire Police's own race action plan, which was brought about in 2023 under the last Tory government, says explicitly that officers must prioritise offences that, quote, cause most harm to ethnic minorities.
But you said
that is what you saw in that body cam footage, to the degree you watched it, is directly downstream from that, Laura. And we've got to call out prejudice wherever it exists. And where it is literally embedded in policing guidelines and code of conduct, that is all the more urgent.
We've shown people the police chief's guidance this morning. We discussed that with David Lammy. But you said that you respect the family more than you wanted to make a political argument. As I understand it, there's been no direct contact, though, between Nigel Farage and the family. And it wasn't until Thursday that anyone from Reform reached out to them, which was 2 days after he made that, what he called an emergency address.
Well,
should you have contacted them earlier?
I am not going to comment on...
I hope they told him to fuck off.
...confidential and private conversations that Nigel Farage, our party leader, has. That would be inappropriate. But again, I watched Henry's father's statement in full. I watched it several times, because it's incredibly moving. And again,
it is, but I'm asking about the context, and I want to move on.
No, but hold on, this is actually really important. She explicitly said
many times.
It is outrageous that people can wander around the streets of Britain in public carrying a 21 centimetre blade.
And you've said that already.
And Reform are the only party that have...
Come on, realistically, how many times have you ever seen that in your life? We're not talking about it being all over every single high street in Britain. This is a very, very, very outlying case.
committed to ending that
And
two-tier policing.
You've said that already. What is your evidence that this awful killing was a direct result of the advice to police officers and how they should behave? How do you know that what happened in those terrible moments was a result of what you say is anti-white racism rather than just police incompetence? What's your evidence for that?
Okay, so here's my evidence. The police race action plan, both the
police officer who's white is anti-white, is he? Good luck with that one, Zia.
National Police and Hampshire Police, which explicitly, astonishingly, staggeringly, actually. I mean, I actually could not believe, as somebody who is a full-time police, I couldn't believe what I was reading. It explicitly demands
I'm
that
not
officers,
asking you about the advice.
as officers
I'm asking
do not.
you.
But hold on.
Forgive me.
With
No, I'm
respect,
asking
Laura, you've got to let me finish my point because I'm answering your question.
Evidence that it was a direct
I'm going to draw
result
a direct
of the
link.
advice rather than what happened in that moment and the police making a terrible mistake.
So Laura, a mistake would imply that the police were not complying with the guidance that they had been given. And the point I'm making...
But they weren't! He clearly what? Come on! If he was, then he won't get sacked, will he? Almost, you know, you could bet your life on him losing his job. Yeah, and won't be back in the police force, most likely. Come on.
I'm going to draw a direct link between what is on that website and the risk of labouring the point. It explicitly says do not treat people the same if you're a police officer, and that you should optimise for equality of outcomes and prioritise offences that cause the most harm to ethnic minority communities. Now, when the family of Henry Digwear called Hampshire Police and said that Henry had been racist to the murderer, Victim Digwear. Now, obviously, the trial proved that to be completely false. The police turned up, and there was zero burden of proof for that claim, because the police turned up and moved almost immediately to handcuff a man who was bleeding out. And we already know the police attending officers knew he had a mouthful of blood. We know that too. And if you tell police officers that there will be, quote, zero tolerance for any form of racism or defiance of these guidelines, and you must prioritise the concerns of ethnic minorities and do not treat everybody the same and do not be colourblind. Those are direct quotes from the guidelines. Then the logical conclusion, Laura, is what you saw in the body cam. And this is a really important point, because when people talk about not politicising things, the only way... The
inevitable conclusion is you coming onto mainstream media talking absolute waffle.
Only way, literally, that we can ensure that we do not have another situation like the tragedy of Henry's death is through political means. And that's why we're going to continue to make the arguments, and nobody's going to guilt trip you.
Yeah, and of course, we knew what the reaction from these knuckle-dragging idiots was going to be as soon as Farage made his statement as well, yeah. Yeah, they reacted exactly as he knew that they would. He knew what he was doing when he made that statement. Not only irresponsible, it's pure fascism.
Us into not making these arguments.
Do you think the police are institutionally racist?
I think the correct answer to that has to be yes, given literally on their website it tells people not to treat people the same, to not be colourblind. And I was listening to your interview with the Justice Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister, where, and I couldn't believe my ears again, he said that, and I quote, "Equality does not mean treating people the same." That is literally the definition, the dictionary definition of equality. And he could not respond to your question, to your credit. You put to him, should everybody be treated the same regardless of the race? He could not answer yes. So if you ask me, is there institutional racism, when literally the Justice Minister and the police's own guidelines instruct officers not to treat people the same according to their race, there can only be one answer, and that is yes.
But does the current status of how police are trained erase decades of evidence that it's ethnic minorities who get a harsher ride from the police and justice system?
No, it doesn't.
I don't think any new evidence erases any previous evidence, but this is also a really important point, because some people put to me, you know, somebody who's an ethnic minority, oh, but Zia, are there no examples of police racism against ethnic minorities? Of course there are such examples. But I put it to you, Laura, that not a single one of those examples is in compliance with the police code of conduct. And that's why we've got to talk about this, because The point we have made time and again, and as has Nigel, we want to live in a country where everyone's treated equally, where regardless of what religion you are, you don't get to carry deadly weapons. And if you vote for a Reform MP and we get a Reform government, Nigel's the Prime Minister, I'm the Home Secretary, regardless of what religion you are, you will not be carrying a deadly weapon on our streets.
And are you comfortable with American politicians claiming that Henry's death was a result of a mass invasion of migrants, or Pete Hegseth standing up at a D-Day commemoration and upbraiding European leaders?
I don't speak for the White House. I'm here to speak for Nigel Farage and for the
you're
Reform
comfortable
Party.
with that. You've got close links with the Trump administration.
Well, I have no personal links to the Trump administration. But here's the important point. I believe in freedom of speech. I think politicians from all over the world can express their views. I'm here to represent Nigel Farage and the Reform Party. That's what I'm doing. OK,
so Yusuf, thanks very much indeed for coming in to speak to us and giving us your time on an important weekend, no question. Thank you.
Could have done that.
Thank you very much.
She could have done quite a bit more there, I think, when he was off on one. Laura Kussenberg. Do politics, me. Right people. What did you make of those shenanigans? Let me know in chat.
Very poor indeed, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, like I said, we could be raiding into Kevin Helena later on. If you want to check out more analysis from the full Laura Kussenberg show, we're going to negate the panel, which included the haunted pencil himself, Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Sky News host, what she called Kay Burley. We'll get on to a few other things. Yeah, following off of the back of that, there have been a couple of quite pathetic responses as well to this. And let's see them as we go into placard power.
Are you a frustrated racist who's blindingly unaware of how wealthy grifters are pitting you against migrants and British-born citizens who aren't white? Do you want to pretend that you're a concerned citizen and that every legal asylum seeker is some kind of sex predator as a thinly veiled cover for your blatant far-right views?
Then do we have the campaign for you? Placard power. Grab a marker, grab some cardboard, attach it to a plank of wood, and bang. You're good to go. Spelling, don't worry about that.
Punctuation? Forget it. That's for woke tranny students. Here at Placard Power, we welcome the illiterate. Dictionaries? Do one. Checking on a computer or phone? No thanks.
However, the words sound in your dumb fascist head. Just write them down like that, and in no time at all, you'll be spreading your message to the masses. It's easy, it's simple. Isn't that right, Captain Placard?
You bet your bigoted arse it is. Placard Power. Join today.
Membership costs £79.99 per month. All transfers to be sent directly to Tommy Robinson, care of Benjamin Netanyahu, Tel Aviv, Israel.
Okay, what have we got? Apparently there was a small gathering in Liverpool on Friday. Around 10 people showed up, which would be the most pathetic example of a response from the far right if it wasn't for this one. Take a look at this. From Gloucester. I've had to turn the sound right down because there's some potentially copyrighted music glaring out as these people choose to take the knee. Apparently now taking the knee's all well and good, according to the far right. Can't ever come up with their own ideas, of course. But look at this. And count them if you can. All of them there. Let's see. We've got 1, 2, 3. Every sort of third person, just on the right. There's the third. That is that it? Was that okay? So that was all of them. All 3 of them. They're outside. Was that close to a station in Gloucester? I'm not sure. Police station. Yes. All 3 of them there. Not the best turnout you'll ever see, really, is it? Quite a poor turnout on that one. And we've also got this from the founder of the flag shagging campaign itself, who's openly confessed in this video to stealing RNLI property. Take a look at this.
Good news, the weather's been crap in the channel. So, you know the lefties that give these out for free? And go and jump in that sea there and swim across, and then we'll pay for you when you get there and say how much of a bad life you've got.
So it's been funded by the public through a charity, and he's stolen it.
That is called the one that got away. So that baby
clearly doesn't even know how to put one on.
It's the one that got away. So lefties, take a picture of that, because that's the one that...
Well, maybe the police will take a picture of that as well, as you clearly and openly admit to theft. Idiot. It's Ryan Bridge is the name of this dickhead, by the way.
Got away. And I'll be going back to get some more mother flipper.
It sounds like you'll be going back to court as well, having been arrested on a few occasions recently. Just look at the state of that, really. Look at the state of that. This is how he chooses to spend his time, is it? And of course, those life jackets are used to save people's lives as well. Something which he seems to be quite pleased about. What's the word I'm looking? Sabotaging. What a dickhead. What an arsehole. So he seems to have done this to piss off people on the left, lefties. I'm taking this a bit personally as well. Yeah, but unbeknownst to him, he's just openly incriminated himself. What an idiot. But don't worry, there's going to be 1 or 2 things happening in the not too distant future that are probably going to make his piss boil as well. More on that to come. Can't go into that too much at this moment. Right, what a dick. Ryan Bridge. Total arsehole. So that was just a short episode of Placard Power. I'm not going to play the thing again as an outro, because we have to get on to other topics.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it. Get on with it.
Big Jerry, nice to see you in chat. Very good evening to you this Socialist Sunday, Solidarity Comrade. So now let's move on to the latest from Makerfield. Of course, it is the current hot seat here on My Left Eye. Yeah, so still a couple of weeks or so until they go to the ballots. But of course, this is all over the news for quite a few reasons. Of course, it includes Andy Burnham. This is his latest manoeuvre to get himself in position as head of the Labour Party, and of course potentially Prime Minister as well. As obvious a ploy as you'll ever see. However, during a Newsnight interview, he first of all denied that that is his, of course, his clear goal, his clear remit in standing in this by-election. But then, later on, of course, went on to tell people why he should be leader of the Labour Party and how he changed the country, so can't keep his story straight where that one's concerned. Now let's have a look at the clip. Because, of course, we're no fans of Burnham here. Unfortunately, it does look like a bit of a two-horse race in this by-election between Labour and Reform. But we are, of course, backing Sarah Wakefield, the Green candidate. So we want Wakefield for Makerfield. Let's see this Burnham clip first, because it's put to him that, of course, he does have the ambition and aspiration of becoming the leader of the Labour Party.
Why do you believe you would be a better Prime Minister than Keir Starmer?
I am not getting into that.
You're not getting into that.
I'm fully focused on this by-election because it's disrespectful, actually, to the decision that people here are making. I'm making no assumptions at all.
Of course you are. Of course you were making assumptions. Come on.
Fuck off.
It's so obvious. What is this? His fourth time of trying, and now it's, oh yeah, it's all about Gorton and Denson, and now I'm all about Makerfield.
About what happens after the 18th of June, and the reason I say that, and this
I'll serve my full term as Mayor of Manchester.
Is something that anybody who lives in this constituency will know, is that this is a tight contest.
So I'm going to just turn this up a little bit. It's kind of quiet. Just need to do a bit of wizardry. Skip that back slightly. No, I'm not hoping for a Reform victory either. This is like, it is a hot seat. Unfortunately, it looks like one where there's not going to be any cause for celebration either way. It is just very sort of indicative of British politics as well, and Andy Burnham, as well, as if he's going to be any sort of alternative to Starmer. But bear in mind, of course, he's just initially rejected the prospect of going for leader if he's successful, trying to say that he's not using the people of Makerfield as a stepping stone for his career, potentially having counted his chickens before his eggs have hatched as well. But we'll see about that. But of course it's his wider ambition. Remember that he's avoiding that at this point.
I'm making no assumptions at all about what happens after the 18th
absolutely
of June.
not.
And the reason I say that, and this is something that anybody who lives in this constituency will know, is that this is a tight contest. There is still so much to play for in this race. It's actually been a really great experience, to be honest. It's just fantastic that this area has the national spotlight on it, that you're here, that we're talking about the issues of this constituency.
After you said last night you would seek to take...
I have heard nothing. I have heard nothing about the specific issues within Makerfield.
...part in any potential Labour leadership contest. Number 10 put out a statement saying the Prime Minister will not walk away from the mandate he was given 2 years ago to build a stronger, fairer Britain. Are you ready to take on the Prime Minister?
Well, this is why I'm saying in this interview, I'm not making any assumptions. We'll see what happens after the 18th of June, win or lose. I don't know where I will be, because this is a tight by-election. People are still kind of weighing up the position, the candidates.
Okay.
And it's really important.
No, I'm going to pause you
I think
there.
it's disrespectful actually to the voters
I
here.
understand that, and people hear you because you've made that
you're
point.
assuming that is, but
I'm not assuming anything. I'm not
I am
assuming
going
anything.
from this interview to door knocking.
I understand.
Knocking on the doors of undecided voters. So that's where it is right now.
Okay.
Sorry, the volume's all over the place here.
To try and win this by-election. Simple.
Okay. What about your plan for the country?
My plan for the country is to change...
Whoever compressed this is an idiot.
...change politics, not just change Labour, change politics. It doesn't work.
Okay,
the Westminster system doesn't work.
Okay, but how can you change this, the system in Makerfield? Is that what you're talking about, Andy? Because you're sounding like you got some pretty big plans for if you were in number 10, if, of course, you were in charge of the whole shebang. You were just saying a moment ago how you're not going to get into that, how you're not going to talk about that, and then just a few moments later, well, of course, plan for change, more of Starmer, the backup Starmer B version, whatever. Count the U-turns. They keep on coming. And one of those issues, see, it's like getting blood from a stone, really, sometimes finding out where he actually stands on things. You might have noticed my frustration with that recently. But on the issue of Gaza, it's been put to him recently whether he'd, of course, correctly say that it was a genocide. And his response in this snippet from Novara Media, he says, I can't judge things of that enormity. Okay. I think that tells you all that you need to know about Andy Burnham. Of course, it's as obvious a genocide as you'll ever see. We'll go into that more a bit later as we talk more about Palestine. But it's clear which side of the fence Andy Burnham sits on. There's only one sort of person or politician, more specifically, that you hear that sort of thing from. And that is those at the behest of the Zio lobbies. So not much change where that's concerned. Yeah, but let's try and look at something a bit more light-hearted now. Because, of course, Count Binface has announced his candidacy. And he's appeared to answer some questions recently, one particularly personal question sort of came up. So we're going to see his response to that. Fun as always from Count Binface, although some of, even myself have speculated whether he's actually splitting the vote on the left. We'll take a look at the latest polling after this clip. But let me know your thoughts about that one. However you feel, though, it's sort of always good to see a bit of banter from Count Binface. And the topic of reproduction came up in this interview. Let's see how he handled it.
Those that know me will know that I only want to ask really one question, and that's about the junk. How do you sort of reproduce? Like, how do you and your fellow... what are you again? You're sorry, that was very rude.
He's a recyclon. A recyclon. He's the leader of the recyclons. It's a
Wasn't it? He hasn't even found out what I am, and he wants to know about my junk.
What? I mean, so how do you reproduce,
Well, I mean, as being Count Binface, technically I'm all junk.
True.
I mean, you could argue a lot of politicians are all junk. Really.
He's literally a bin.
But, yes, well, I mean, you want to say reproduction, you mean? That's what you want to know about. But basically, there's two separate things here. If you mean, how do we get it on? Like a bit of fun stuff. That's, we are, a pentasexual. We can do whatever we want. And it's a lot of banging, literally. And figuratively. But procreation on Sigma 9 is rather different. What you do, it's very...
It just sounds like old-fashioned metal bin lids banging together.
Simple. It's very clean, actually. You just simply write off to the council, and a month later, a little bin appears for you.
That's really good. Just for anyone who's not in the UK, over recent years, we used to get our bins collected every week, and then it went down to one per 2 weeks, a fortnight, as we'd say. And if you want any extra bins, you have to write off to the council, and you have to pay, and they'll send you another bin. You have to sort of go and apply and pay for one and stuff. So he's sort of making light of that situation as well, which I think was very good. Just write off to the council. And then a little bin appears. The stork brings a little bin. A little recyclon. Genie Bottle, nice to see you in chat. Solidarity.
Good system. It's a good system. You simply write off to the council, and a month later, a little bin appears for you. It's a good system. It's a good system.
So there's nothing going on really down there? It's just as long as you've got hands that can write letters?
Well, like I say, we've divorced, if you pardon the expression, the fun from the procreation, which I think is an evolutionary advantage. You guys get all confused by the fact that you're trying to have fun, and the next minute you're having the opposite of fun. It's illogical, Like, how many humans here, if you are parents, will have had that wonderful moment of, dare I say it, carnal pleasure, maybe this has happened to you, and then 9 months later, that single act, which may have happened in a bed, results in at least one of that couple being evicted from the bed because of the arrival of the baby. So, you've got it all wrong. Like I said, cancel all the way. But you weren't expecting that.
No, not at all. So when you look at humans then, you must see, if you don't have this preoccupation with sex, you must look at the amount of energy, in fact in the whole of the animal kingdom, the amount of energy put into reproduction, the fact that we have all these strange structures and our behaviours change, a lot of animals are going through heat and all this sort of stuff. Is that a bad thing for life on this planet? Do you look at that as wasted time, or are you a bit sort of curious and a bit jealous, or a bit horny?
Oh, well, you really are a randy sod, aren't you? Well, I would say all those things, but the fact is, of course, that most of the species on your planet have simply not evolved far enough to evolve local councils. You see?
Very good. From Count Binface, one of the candidates in Makerfield. Oh, Genie Bottle, I'm not certain about that conspiracy theory. Don't think there's a lot of evidence for Count Binface being Banksy. So, good stuff. Good stuff. You never know, though. You never know. Right. I said we were going to look at the latest polling, didn't I? Also, do you think Binface is going to split the votes? That come into it as I reveal this poll from Servation, brought to us from Stats for Lefties. Do go and check out Stats for Lefties. But unfortunately, yes, it does look like a two-horse race. Of course, we're backing the Green candidates. I firmly believe that you have to stick with your principles and vote for the party which closely matches those, instead of getting into the chaos, the labyrinthian world of tactical voting. No, I'd never back Labour, I'd never back Reform or Restore, who look to have, it could be crucially, importantly, where the results concerned, gone up to 8% now. So if you'd assume that most of that was taken from Reform, it does indeed look like it's going to prove to be decisive. Unfortunately, the Green candidate polling on just 2% at the moment. Come on, people, get behind Sarah Wakefield. You never know. You never know. Always take polls with a pinch of salt, but according to this, it's a somewhat healthy 10-point lead for Burnham with 49% of the votes. Is the drop of 1 point perhaps a bit of a bounce off the back of Rob Kenyon's not too impressive appearance on Question Time recently? I'm surprised to see the Greens down a point, because I think that Sarah Wakefield made a very good account of herself on Question Time last Thursday. So, surprised to see that, yeah. Lib Dem are down 3. Tories down as well. Could Count Binface potentially beat Lib Dem or the Tories? I really hope Count Binface doesn't get more than the Green candidate, to be honest. But it doesn't look like that would be too decisive where the sort of splitting of the left vote is concerned. That would all be academic in this case. Unfortunately, we're not going to have much to celebrate either way, according to that poll. You'd vote for Binface, would you, Doc? I, for one, welcome our new Binface overlords. Trying to get in early, are you, Doc? Being tactical, I see, playing the long game. When the Recyclons eventually take over the Milky Way, and of course planet Earth with it. Mo, nice to see you in chat. How you doing this eve? You think Burnham would be better than Reform? I would argue that, of course. Would he bring any fundamental change to Makerfield or, of course, the country if he goes on to challenge? I would argue not. But, of course, there's still the distinct possibility that he can be successful in Makerfield and still lose out in the leadership election. Yeah, of course, there would still be that drama to come. Nina Sadie's also with us in the chat on Rock. Yeah! Nice to see you as well. You're a Green Party campaigner and you'd vote for Binface. Well, are you allowed to do that? Are you a member? Or is this tongue-in-cheek? Perhaps. Erin Gray's also with us. Nice to see their chats. Filling up quite a few familiar faces and including members as well. Solidarity this Socialist Sunday. Always good to see familiar faces in the chat, isn't it, Alan?
Jurassic Park.
He's very excited. So that's it for updates on the latest hot seat in Makerfield. Of course, keep you updated over the next couple of weeks or so as we get closer to that date. It's not. I don't feel the same kind of tension or excitement as I did for Gorton and Denton. Yeah, it's not a great choice. It looks as though the result's going to be somewhat different, unfortunately. But of course, it potentially brings leadership drama. We'll keep you up to speed with that on the next episode.
Okay!
Music's too loud. The neighbours have been complaining. You just watch your steps, Sonny.
Don't worry, Herbie and Gang gets just on the clip. They're not actually here. So that poll didn't look too good, but this one looks a lot better, has to be said. Reasons to be positive. Take a look at this one, where the young vote's concerned. This is the 16 to 21 age bracket amongst British students, 49%. Going for the Greens, that's a gain of 30%, with Labour down 23, leaving them on 17. Reform have made a single-digit gain, just a fraction that the Greens have. Lib Dem are down 10, with Tories surprisingly going up 1%, but that's a massive swing of 30 there. According to Savanta, that poll was taken between the 5th and the 13th of May, so yeah. Maybe we should stop over 21s voting, I don't know. This, of course, supports the argument for 16-year-olds to get the vote. If you can be taxed, surely you should have the right to vote. Many other arguments, of course. They can join the armed forces, for example. So that's a whopper. That's a whopper of a poll. Do like that one. Hope is Kindle. Do like that one. Might get a bit of a kick out of this as well. Let's try and keep things on the positive side. Michael Gove, of course, not in Parliament anymore, losing out at the last election, but seems to have been popping his head above the parapet on the media quite a lot recently. So he was on Have I Got News For You, who I'm not actually a regular viewer of. They themselves have in the past sort of got along with the undermining of Corbyn and made some unsavoury comments about Polanski recently. However, Ian Hislop, who's one of the regular panel members, continuously laid into Michael Gove in this. I think it was the last episode, which does it go out on Fridays? So this is a compilation of the best bits of him laying into Gove. Yeah, it's a very, very long-running show on the BBC. It's got to be one of the longest-running shows ever now, that it, you know, outside of soap operas or whatever. But it's been going for donkey's years, and of course Hislop and Paul Merton have been ever present, I believe. Let's check this one out. Let's see what's happening.
I mean, you were sacked and then dismissed, and then you always came back. I mean, they're cockroaches, I know, who were in awe of your ability. And I preferred Cameron's definition. He said you had one overriding quality. Have I got this right? Which was disloyalty.
I think I have many other good qualities as well.
Yeah. I can't think of any, but that's a good one. No, I preferred you talking about levelling up. Can I just say at this point that I've always liked experts. I think... Turbulent week. I think what we've seen is a large number of members of the cabinet stabbing each other in the back in the hope of becoming leader. Michael.
This is an unprecedented departure from the high standards that have been set by previous governments.
Yes. I mean, how does it feel? You're in cabinet, you're being polite, you're pretending to support them, then you go out, you stab them in the back. How do you feel?
Well, it obviously depends on whose back you're stabbing. In some cases, it's a solemn duty.
Yeah.
In other cases, it's a positive pleasure.
Right. Yeah.
This is amazing.
You tried to be leader a couple of times, didn't you?
Twice.
How did that go?
I came third both times, which is an unmemorable double humiliation.
You did stop Boris being leader once.
I did, yes. But as we all, I think, subsequently know, that was only a temporary alleviation.
Yeah, but it was your one good deed in this life. In the old days, you used to get into trouble with emails, though, didn't you, Michael?
Never.
When you were in the Department of Education, there was a bit of a problem about you handing them over, wasn't there?
Oh, no, I was always very happy to hand them over.
You just couldn't find them?
Some of them went missing, yes.
Just to say, nothing changes.
I wouldn't know.
This is amazing. You know so much until you don't know anything.
Wow. It's not as good as this, though.
Yeah, he's had a few or something. I don't know what's going on.
I know what's coming.
You've interviewed him, haven't you, Michael?
Wow. I have, yes, in 2017.
Yeah?
It was quite a sympathetic interview, wasn't it?
I prefer to think of it as balanced.
Yeah, sycophantic drivel was the phrase I was looking for.
Having a penile implant specialist leading the hantavirus response is ridiculous. A bit like allowing an office interior design firm to supply PPE during the pandemic. Michael? Any comment on that?
I think that as one looks back, the blessed sponge of amnesia wipes the slate of memory clean.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's really forgotten, though, Michael. You're in the House of Lords now, sitting alongside other luminaries like Baroness Moan. That's the reaction I was looking for.
No, they're just pronouncing her name.
Yes.
That applause must be a welcome sound.
What is it? I've never heard it before.
Michael Gove. What a piece of crap. Music, please. Doctor Who looks like he's had a skinful. David Tennant. No, I think Gorwood certainly had a few drops before the camera started rolling there. We're going to pop stateside now for a few moments. Here's a clip from Donald Trump. He actually walks out of this one when the legitimacy of the California elections comes up. Trump throws about some conspiracy theories. The host challenges him on providing evidence, and then he responds in, obviously, what can only be described as the most ludicrous and childishly obnoxious fashion that you could imagine. And the fact, again, that this is a supposed head of states, the President of the United States of America, is somewhat shocking. So if you've not seen this one, let's check it out. It also, for some reason, bizarrely, takes place in quite a strange setting. A farm setting. Farm is the theme of the background, as you'll see a harvester and bales of hay randomly placed around the place. For some reason, during this interview, I'm not particularly certain why that is, but let's see what's happening.
Crooked press, people like stupid Biden, he's not smart enough to know what's going on, but people that surrounded him, surrounded his beautiful, resolute desk in the Oval Office. What they did to the lives of people, they destroyed people. They sent people to jail who did nothing wrong.
All right, just to be very clear, there's no evidence of what you're saying, but let me ask you about Todd Blanche. Let me ask you about Todd Blanche.
Listen to me.
Let's talk about Todd Blanche.
Tremendous evidence. There's nothing but evidence. The election was rigged. It was a dirty election.
Mr.
And it's
President,
happening again right now in California.
You've never presented evidence.
It's happening
the
right now in California.
Rigged.
Right now, it's look at what's happening in California.
Where's the evidence to that?
It's
The
4
Republicans
days.
are doing well in
California. It's no, they're not. They're dropping fast because it's a rigged election. Let me tell you, it's 4 days, and they aren't even close to coming up with.
That's how they count
You know
the
why they're
votes in
doing that? Because
California.
they're cheating on the election.
What? Do you have evidence to support
All I have to do is look. All I have to do is look.
That's not
and I
evidence.
listen. And I listen to people. And let's see what happens.
But sir, that's not evidence.
Do you think it's appropriate?
That's how they.
All they have to do is look. What? Look at what? Look where? Look at. Of course, he's going to take an absolute trashing in the midterms. He knows it. Hence this overperformance here. All they have to do is look. But I won't say where.
Count the votes in
Do you think it's
California.
appropriate that they have an election and 5 days later they're nowhere close to picking a
State
winner?
and local officials acknowledge they are slow. They're urging.
No, they're crooked.
They're urging
They're
the
crooked.
votes to be counted quicker. That's how they vote
They're
in
crooked,
California.
just like you're crooked. Your press is crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked.
To be fair, I'm not crooked, but let's.
Really?
Let's
Well, you
continue.
play right into their hands. and
Let's continue.
You're either crooked or you're stupid.
Let's
you play
continue.
right into their hands with this crap. You know that these elections are rigged. Your network knows that they're rigged. You know that I won an election in a landslide, and I got 94% bad press.
But Mr. President,
you know why I
you've
got
never
that?
presented
Because you have no
evidence.
credibility.
But you've never presented evidence that it was.
Maybe you got it because of the Epstein files, perhaps. What? Does anyone have any idea why there's a harvester in the background and a load of bales of hay spread about the place? Please, any of our American viewers, do. Please relieve my curiosity in the chat.
Rigged. Let's keep talking about. I want to talk about Todd.
You
Blanche.
have more evidence. There's more evidence than ever presented.
Let's talk
Your
about
elections
There's
in
more.
this country. We're like a third world country.
But, sir-
Your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked,
Mr.
and so
President-
is ABC and CBS and CNN.
But, Mr. President-
You're one-sided crooked networks. All right, let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
What a
I've sat in
ridiculous
the rain with you.
individual.
I know. I
I've sat in the
traveled
rain
all the
with
way
you
to
for an hour,
Wisconsin.
on and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time.
And what's that noise in the background? Is this like next to a waterfall as well? For God's sake. So it's a farm next to a waterfall? Is that? Or what? Just the sound of heavy running water in the background.
You ought to straighten out your press because you know what?
Mr.
A
President,
country can never be
we
great
traveled.
Or it's probably pissing it down, wherever they are.
with the dishonest
Listen,
press.
we
Come on, let's
traveled
go.
all the way to Wisconsin. For
And
this
he's off.
interview.
He's gone. He's gone. Off he goes. Off he goes. Yeah, just literally provide any amount of evidence to support the bullshit that you're saying. Was all that he was asked. That was all that he was asked, and that's the reaction from the President of the United States of America. Wow. Wow.
Pathetic.
Yeah, it was rain. Why the? Let's do it in a barn, in the middle of heavy rain. Okay. Just get 2 plastic chairs and dump them down. Or was it in a studio and they literally just brought in the harvester and what was all that about? We'll bring it back over to the UK now, and also start to segue into Palestine as well, which is going to be the topic of this. We mentioned, of course, recently Cenk from the Young Turks was banned from entering the UK. Quite a shameful move on the part of the UK government, of course. And also Hassan Piker was also denied entry. He, as Cenk before him, which we saw on the last stream, appeared on LBC with Lewis Goodall, who can only be described as frustratingly naive and misinformed in this interview. But just before we take a look at that, here's a bit more about the ban and what this actually means for democracy and free speech as well.
I already had a visa, and they apparently pulled it. They had nothing on me that is in violation of British law in any way, shape, or form. They couldn't even charge anti-Semitism. But they said my criticism of Israel is by definition anti-Semitic, and hence I must be banned. So I didn't get banned for criticizing the United Kingdom. I got banned for criticizing Israel in the United Kingdom. Ironically, they said, well, the way you criticized Israel was that you said it controls the American government. And since we're the British government, we're not allowing you to criticize Israel, so you see how we are not controlled. No, I don't see that. Actually, that's deeply ironic. It sounds like you are. And I hadn't said you, I said the American government. That's because 94% of Congress has taken contributions from the Israeli lobby. That is true.
Israel is a fascist country, and it gets to enforce its bidding upon other countries, and in an effort to abide by the wishes of a foreign country like Israel, the Western liberal democracies that are supposed to protect and preserve speech, even if they don't have a First Amendment like we do here in the United States of America, they're supposed to have reason, like good reason. This is not one of them. This is not one of them. Being critical of Israel while effectively combating anti-Semitism is not a good enough reason to bar someone entry into the country.
Shout out to AJ Plus for that clip there. We're going to hear more from Hassan Piker now, as I said on this interview. It's a poor showing from the host, Lewis Goodall.
Do you think it might ever be better sometimes just to never compare any Jews to Nazis? It might just be wise to do that.
No, I don't. I'm not so precious about that comparison. And I've actually had...
but maybe that's easy for you to say as a non-Jewish person.
Oh, for sure. At the end of the day, it's a genocide. At the end of the day, this is an apartheid state. And Zionism as an ideology is a racist ideology. And many Jewish thinkers are now also coming to terms with that, even if they had self-identified.
So, first of all, he's obviously conflating Zionism with Judaism. Lewis Goodall, that is. The interview in full lasted almost an hour. I think it's available on the YouTube. Just a short. This is just a short clip from that, but this particular part summarizes it.
Identified as Zionists their entire lives. This transformation.
So you would compare what's happened in Gaza to the Holocaust?
Yes, you have to. They both genocides, the different forms of genocide, of course, but by definition, of course, they both are. So it's, of course, an easy comparison to make. You'd have to be extraordinarily ignorant not to know that, because, of course, the ICJ say that it is. So many other international institutions recognise this as the genocide that it is. So sociologically, you can make such comparisons, and it's not startlingly wild or ludicrous to do so, Lewis.
It's not to the same extent, no, but I have compared it to the Holocaust, yes.
But it's not the Holocaust, is it, Hassan? I think the thing about you is you speak compellingly about many things, but you undermine your case and you open yourself to the...
It's the same intent. It's the same ambition, of course, but it's not the same methodology. Of course, it doesn't like for like match the methodology from World War II. He's been completely ignorant of the fact that Israel very openly, from Netanyahu himself, other people, Ben-Gvir, of course, Ishmael Ben-Gvir, Yoav Gallant, Israel Katz, every single one of them very openly declare their intentions to annex the entire Palestinian population, as well as other countries in the region. Of course, they are, as I speak, occupying South Lebanon as well, of course, but where genocide is concerned, it is the intent that comes into it as well, very specifically.
Accusation, which might not be unreasonable, of anti-Semitism. My suggestion to you would be that it is crass and offensive to compare the only Jewish state in the world, and we should, of course, be careful of eliding Israel and Judaism, of course, but it is...
But you're not. You're acting as though you don't know the difference between a country and a religion. And yeah, I reject the notion of the so-called Jewish state as well, because under international law, you can't say that a country is exclusive to a certain ethnicity or race. Jews should be welcome in all countries around the world, of course, but it obviously gets overlooked so often by people like Lewis Goodall and others, that yes, while there are 3 Abrahamic religions in the world, that is Christianity, Islam and Judaism, out of the 3 of those, by numbers, in terms like statistically, Judaism is far behind Christianity and Islam. In fact, there's only something like 12 to 15 million practicing Jews in the world, and that is why they are a minority. Obviously, you can compare that to Christianity and Islam, who respectively have close to roughly 1 billion practicing members each. And the solution to that isn't saying, let's annex a country, i.e. Palestine, and make it exclusive to one specific religion, and ignore the complete annexation of the Palestinian territory therein. Sorry, it just stultifies me. This is LBC, this is a mainstream outlet here, but he's just obviously playing the Zio playbook to the letter. This is so bad.
The only Jewish state in the world, mainly comprised of Jews, comparing them to Nazis, given that Nazis literally tried...
So you go on and admit that it is not... that Israel is not exclusive to Jews, even though you just seconds ago described it as the, air quotes, Jewish state. Yeah, it's majority Jewish, of course. Where's he going with this?
To exterminate this entire race, and came very close to succeeding. You don't need to do that, you shouldn't do it, and it's crassly and grossly offensive.
It's crassly and grossly offensive to the truth that you choose to ignore the difference between a state and a religion. There's only one way that you can describe the actions of Israel, and we're way past entertaining the idea that criticising that can be conflated as anti-Semitism. Get real, Lewis. But of course, this is LBC. Sangeeta Miska, was it, of course, who was famously sacked for properly holding an Israeli spokes to account just once, and they threw her straight out the door. Yeah. Lewis Goodall, not knowing much about the truth, but probably trying to protect his own job, responding to Hassan Piker. The full hour, like I said, is available on YouTube if you do want to check that out. We can go on and on forever, of course, about the appropriation of Judaism that Zionism utilizes. But it always deserves a quick mention, as I've just given it on that occasion. What do you think about Lewis Goodall? That effort. Also, of course, the wider banning of Cenk and Hassan, who were due to speak at the Oxford Union, as you saw in that little clip earlier. Moving on now, sticking with Palestine. But something a bit more satisfying than what LBC had to put up there. This is from footage from Italy, where there was pro-Gaza, pro-Palestinian protest. However, a small group of Zios sitting in a cafe nearby chose to try to agitate, I don't know, whatever, the protesters holding up an Israeli flag. However, they were very promptly asked to leave by the proprietor. Yeah, don't want any Zios in this cafe. I think it was in Turin. I'm not 100% certain. Wherever it was, though, in Italy. Well done. Let's see this one now. Excuse me, we don't serve Zionists. You can get to fuck.
Alles gut, ein bisschen Abstand halten. Abstand halten. Alles gut. Abstand halten. Ja? Keiner Deutsch. طبعا هاي طردهم. طبعا. يلا برا طردوكو. برا. برا.
Thank you, Espresso House.
فتنا طردوكو. يلا اوت. اوت.
Ciao.
اوت. يا خوان.
Off you go.
اوت. اوت. اوت دكتور طيزي اوت.
Ciao.
راحت هيبتكم والله راحت. طردوكم من الكافتيريا. راحت الهيبة تاعت الشرطة.
Off you go. Vaffanculo. Testa ragazzi.
ايش يا دكتور فتنة؟
And off they go. Yes. Nice one. What was that? The Espresso House, wherever that one is. Well done. Well done. Not sure of the exact location, somewhere in Italy. I believe. The vendor was the Espresso House. I don't know if that's a chain. Maybe it's a chain of coffee shops, I don't know. Or bars, as they're known, in Italy. I'm going to do another plug for this now. Of course, made mention of this a couple of times, excuse me, before on streams, but the director is someone who I know. In fact, the topic, the subject of the film is Just Stop Oil, and the campaigns beginning on October the 1st, 2022, which I was very much involved with myself. So Richard Felgate is finally premiering We the Hated. This is going to have a double premiere at the Lyceum Theatre and the Showroom Cinema, showing on the 10th of June, both at 7 p.m. simultaneously. This is in Sheffield, part of the Sheffield Documentary Festival. For anybody who can check this out in South Yorkshire. The showing the following day is actually sold out. That one includes a Q&A with Rich himself. And then there's the early showing at 10 a.m. on the 14th at The Light. So if you want more information about that, please do go to chefdocfest.com. I don't know, might be one or two sightings of yours truly in the film, I don't know. I've not seen it myself. I'm really looking forward to seeing it as well. It will hopefully be going nationwide, but this is going to be the world premiere of We the Hated. Check it out. And it was, yeah. He's very good. Oh, quick plug for his previous work as well. Finite, The Climate of Change. If you want to check out more from the excellent Richard Felgate. Got a abrupt end to the music as well as another comedy clip now. This is the Rants Parodies again, another one. As you know who considers the outcome of the upcoming FIFA World Cup, which of course we should all boycott, certainly the games in the United States. Make your minds up about Canada or Mexico. You can maybe check those ones out if you want, but let the pumpkin spice Palpatine know what you think by boycotting the continental United States games, at least. This is, of course, considering the protagonist going to be concerning the German team. So let's check out what's going on in the bunker.
Dass diese kulturlosen Bestien Europa überschwemmen. Es kann und darf nicht sein. Ich bin das letzte Bollwerk gegen diese Gefahr.
Mein Führer, dann ist die 9. Armee verloren.
Wir werden die im Norden und Osten bis an den äußeren Verteidigungsring vorstoßenden Sowjetverbände in einem rücksichtslosen, mit aller Kraft geführten Gewaltschlag zurückwerfen.
Mit welchen Kräften, mein Führer?
Die Gruppe Steiner wird von Norden her angreifen und sich mit der 9. Armee vereinigen.
Wenn dem Führer der Tod bestimmt sein sollte, muss er das Ende in den Trümmern der Hauptstadt suchen. Nichts anderes ist er der Treue zu seiner weltgeschichtlichen Aufgabe und seinem historischen Rang schuldig.
Die 9. Armee ist nach Norden hin bewegungsunfähig.
Die Feindkräfte übersteigen unsere Mannschaft um ein Zehnfaches.
Soll mit der 12. Armee die Sache unter...
Hermann Göring. Well, he was a greedy bastard and a junkie as well.
Aber mein Führer, die 12. Armee marschiert nach Westen, Richtung Elbe.
Dann soll die Armee kehrt machen!
Dann entblößen wir die Westfront.
Haben Sie noch Zweifel an meinem Befehl? Ich glaube, ich habe mich klar genug ausgedrückt!
And then there's this, which is something a bit different from Rant's parodies, but it's on the clip, so I'll play it anyway. If you want to go and subscribe and check out more from Rant's parodies. Divinia, nice to see you in the chats. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, of course they've taken a bit of a swipe at Thomas Tuchel, of course, current England manager being German. Time to show heaps of appreciation and thanks to all the members here on My Left Eye. Currently on 143, getting closer towards the 200 and then the goal of 250. Thank you very much for all your recent contributions. There are lots of ways to support the channel. Please do hit the join button if you'd like to join people on this list. Super chat's also open, super thanks if you watch back later. Don't forget there's a Buy Me a Coffee page in the description of any content in the channel. Do go and give us a share on social media as well. Thank you very much, everybody. Oh, and of course, there's hype points. Don't forget that one as well. Check out some recent non-stream content, if you would, please, people. Go and hit the thumbs up button and contribute some hype points. Certain left-leaning channels might be getting overlooked, I should say, at the moment. So please do. Help give us a boost. Yes, we're pretty much at the end of proceedings where this Sunday live stream is concerned. Stick around though, because we're going to be reading into the fantastic Kevin Logan, who I know most of you will be familiar with already, but if not, do subscribe once we raid over there. And we'll nip back into the lounge as we say our goodbyes for a second portion of Fondue, of course. Just a few moments. Nice one for throwing up the Palestine flags in the chat there, Graham. And it's been great to see you on stream. Yeah, we've had a great crowd in the chat, so thank you very much, everybody. Oh, thanks to Herbie Ranger and the Supersonics there. We'll be catching up with them next week. Now let's continue with one of your other favourite earworms in the Fondue Lounge. Shout out again to the Agitator for this scene.
It's a quality item, ladies and gentlemen.
certainly is quality. And speaking of quality, do join me for a tasty hot beverage on the brews at 10 next week, when we'll be back with you with more live streams here on My Left Eye. And yours truly, your humble host, Lefty. So yes, stick around for the raid. All that remains is for me to thank you for joining me here this evening. Power to the people, free Palestine, Lebanon, Sudan and Yemen. Don't let the bastards grind you down. Don't watch the news, be the news. And My Left Eye will be seeing you soon. Very good evening, people. Eat up quickly and we'll do a raid. Catch you later.
It's a quality item, ladies and gentlemen.
It's what Hitler and Goering did, and it is textbook. And if you think the next time it happens, we're gonna recognize it because they're wearing scary uniforms, you're out of your damn mind.